When last we left our intrepid adventurers, we were in trouble. Yes, you all here for this. So, Cricket and Aram Benjarad had been swallowed by a mouth of the void. The good part of that is that we were keeping its stomach occupied.
It said max occupancy of 2.
Yeah, it couldn't swallow anyone else.
And if Cricket died.
And if Cricket died, it would die too. I was a bomb. I was a Cricket bomb. Because back when we went to the Kalinar Drago party, they had developed that potion made from Udonhavium that you drink it, and then you are now poisoned. If a shapeshifter swallowed you and tried to replicate you, they would explode. You'd still be dead, but you couldn't be replicated. So that meant that you were secure. You never had to worry that your party members had been replaced by doppelgangers.
Was that second part of it necessary for the death? Like you would have to try to replicate you to die, or could it just eat you and then?
I guess they could just kill you, but the Mouth of the Void didn't know about it.
All the doppelgangers in Mouth of the Void, they eat people, consume them, and then are able to take their form. At the moment they consume you, they blow up and die.
Yeah.
So no one could ever be replicating anyone drinking that potion.
Gotcha. It doesn't require them to consciously try to take the form.
No, as soon as you're digested, they explode. But yeah, both Aram Benjarad had taken a resistance potion that had extended his stay in the stomach to 20, 30 rounds or something. So, that wasn't a problem. Cricket was going a little bit faster, but she has that epic ability that gives her health back. So she was going to last for 6, 7 rounds. So it was kind of moot. Also, I had some trickery that would possibly let me save out of being in the stomach easier than normal, because it was a saving throw at the end of our round, but it was actually 2 saving throws and there were penalties on it, so it really sucked. But I had some trickery that almost made it fair again. But anyway, the real problem was Croesus had, we dug a little spider hole where Serendipity was going to hide and do her ritual to time-poline the end of all things over to Allenway. Stop smirking, this is serious stuff. And Aram Benjarad stayed down there. Ostensibly, Aram Benjarad was guarding Serendipity, but really we were trying to keep him from going and stealing everything, and thus drawing more Jenga blocks. But anyway, the problem was that the Mouth of the Void had showed up in the spider hole through the escape hatch. And then Croesus teleported down there to lock it down, and it just went by and came out of the spider hole. And so now Croesus is trapped in the spider hole, and he can't teleport out because it was an encounter power he used to get down there. So Cricket and Benjarad are out of the fight because they're in the thing's stomach. Croesus is out of the fight because he's down in the spider hole and there's no way out. So it's the Mouth of the Void versus Hank and Serendipity. And Serendipity needs to keep casting that ritual to make the time police. We've got 3 rounds of leeway at this point. Also, there's a firing squad of minions up there that do fearsome amounts of damage. They're minions, but they're scattered around, and also the Mouth of the Void. So yeah.
And Hank is a glass cannon, so it really comes down to whether he's more glass or more cannon.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it was kind of I was very nervous about the situation that we were in. As it turned out, it wasn't as bad as I thought. No. The first round, the Mouth of the Void had just gone up through the little tiny hole in the spider hole that Serendipity had so she would have line of effect to be able to cast her ritual. Oh, really? So it was standing on the floor above the spider hole. So Hank, he still had a cinematic point, and so he spent that, and he did a cool thing. He used his beam shot to beam shot up to the ceiling over the Mouth of the Void, and then do a vertical charge downwards to hit the Mouth of the Void and smash through the floor into the spider hole where Croesus was trapped. And so he did that, and he also did a fearsome amount of damage to the Mouth of the Void. Massive damage to the Mouth of the Void. So yeah, it's now on its last legs, and Croesus is free. And did it fall into the spider hole?
It died.
It died.
Yeah, he killed it.
He just killed it. He
killed it in one shot.
Yeah, he one-shot it.
He has a thing where I think he crit, and if he crits, he gets 2 free attacks. So the first attack did massive damage, and then as it was falling, he killed it in the air.
Yeah.
And
I remember.
And still smashed through the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was gone by the time he smashed
Critical
through.
success leads to saving the party.
It was, all of a sudden, boom, okay, now we're back to death.
The whole
Frank
time.
knows how that feels.
We left the session, all the players were like annoyed that it made it so hard, and Brian was panicking all week.
Yeah.
First action, instant death.
I made a bargain with Anthedon in my head to get help to solve this. So I now owe Anthedon, and that's gonna affect things. But anyway,
It's fine. He's somewhere in this campaign.
yeah. No, I'm just making bargains in my head about like, okay, how can we find weird contingency plans to save us from this certain death? Anthedon, you're the expert. And he's like, excellent, you've come crawling back. I have plans. Okay. So,
I think Serendipity was a little bit sad that it just got done. She's like, I guess I'll kill these minions.
You're jerk.
yeah. So that was good. We still had a bunch of stuff that we had to do in a hurry. The past party was going to be coming through the door very soon, so we had to fix the hole in the floor.
And they were gonna come into the room they were in about a minute, but they were gonna come into the storage room where they had dumped the peasant woman and the genasi.
Their names, by the way, are Zenith and Gwyn.
And they were going to be in there in 5 rounds, I think, so they had to get them out of there because they saw them fall to their deaths.
John insists that the genocide's name is Zenith, but we all decided that the peasant woman's name was Zenith.
That's just because when they asked, they're like, what's your name? And I was like, my name is Zenith. And they're like, is that the peasant woman?
Yes. She's all grim and dark. She's really cool. No.
She did just, she died and came back. Maybe she's just been a smoker for 40 years.
So basically we just shoveled a bunch of debris into the hole because as long as the past party doesn't go digging in the hole, who cares? It won't change things all that much. And of course, Cricket ran over to grab Zenith and Gwyn, grabbed them and said, okay, come with me now. Hurry. And they're like, okay.
Come with me if you want to live.
Miss Diplomacy
I did say that.
54. I did actually, yes. It was my opportunity. Come with me if you want to live.
We'll kill you.
Actually, I would have if they didn't want to come, because it's more important. It's more important that they not be there.
That's got to be an awkward conversation.
Yeah. If you stay here, the past party will see you, and that will destroy time. So you come with me if you want to live.
Actually, good for me.
Yeah, I had already proposed just dumping them in the chasm, because it was so urgent to come in and fight the mouth of the void.
Yeah. Your death is definitely the most expedient choice.
We didn't come here to save you. That was a bonus. We can skip that.
Yeah, we just did it because it was easy.
Yeah.
We did it in passing, and we got to make our sprint goals.
So anyway.
There's a tiny bit left.
So, so we got them, and we threw them in the basement. And Cricket went in the basement with them to debrief them. And again, Cricket started telling them all about time travel. And Serendipity's like, Cricket, shut up! I'm ordering you. Stop telling everybody about time travel. Okay.
So as long as there's one person you don't tell.
And about a minute or so later, Henley comes striding out of the storage room, saying that whatever he said last time, which was like, you guys are idiots. I know how to lead a party in here. But this time the well wasn't falling into a vat of maggots and being skeletonized. It was being smacked by Croesus and hucked in a sack and then carried into the darkness to be hurled into the basement.
Back in the sack with you. He has a lot of being put in sacks and thrown in places.
I'm going to be amused if the people that originally threw you down into the pit was you in robot suits.
We were saying last episode that you do that.
We came so close after all this was over. Our sort of tertiary goal was to go find those Warforged and beat the crap out of them. We didn't want to kill them. We just cause we wanted, it was vengeance. We wanted vengeance. But it turns out we would have had to pull a Jenga block to do that. So we're like, no. We still haven't defeated the end of all things. We should probably conserve our Jenga block. It'll be one of those post-campaign things, I guess. But anyway. So all of the NPCs were in the basement. And
Time cleaning ritual is completed.
the time cleaning ritual is completed. There was one problem. The goblin had been scared off. by all of the stuff that happened. Epic adventurers in a huge fight, killing off a bunch of other goblin and stuff like that. So Cricket did have to use the Hat of Disguise to disguise herself as a goblin, and then go and use her bluff and diplomacy to become the leader of the goblin and direct them to go and attack the party. So yes, I became the leader of the goblin and had them attack our past party.
So, continuing your quest to become every NPC in the game?
Yep, I'm now the goblin that attacked the party.
The biggest problem was she kept using words that were too big for the goblin to understand. By the end, it kind of worked. By the end, they were like, "Yeah, hit them in the vulnerable," because she explained that they were vulnerable now, and that meant a weak spot. And they were like, "Yeah, hit them in the vulnerable." So they learned a new word incorrectly before they died.
Yep. So yeah, then the past party came through and they got attacked by goblin, and everything worked out. And then after the party had finished passing through, then we went and looted all the stuff that we'd missed on our first pass through. We should probably just follow our party through the entirety of the campaign, picking up all the loot that we missed.
I mean, you are following the theme of the campaign.
So I'm trying to remember if anything else happened in the Ood Ruins.
Treasure did you get?
No.
I haven't actually given it out yet.
Yeah. I mean, we went and ripped Salty Fatty Tasty's dispenser out of the wall, so we got that.
You got a Salty Fatty Tasty dispenser?
Yes, we do.
That is a prize.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned in passing at some point a while back that the Salty Fatty Tasty dispenser was a magic item. It was only cooked into the wall because it needs power. But if you can provide magical power to it, it's totally portable.
Yeah.
And they were like, "What? I didn't realize that. We could have had that all along." So of course.
On top of that, they just need a blue fish dispenser.
I am considering having Hank's dexterity start going down after this, as he starts putting on weight.
Salty Fatty Tasty.
Dex isn't his main stat, so he'll still be just as strong and good in combat. But I'm just imagining him just putting on a few extra pounds.
So yeah, after that, our next step was to travel to Allenway, because that's where we time-polined the end of all things. Because Allenway is the only place where the Oodpocalypse is accessible, because time is so fractured in Allenway. So we chose to time-poline the end of all things to Allenway right after we had finished killing those previous shapeshifters.
Yeah.
Because it's a safe place, and yeah.
Because they managed to kill all the doppelganger minions, none of them knew what time they were going to. That actually became a thing where someone tried to run away, but they killed them. And so there's no reason to assume when they went back to this time, there was good reason to assume they'd be there waiting for them to prevent them from screwing with stuff. But there was no reason to assume they would be there this time because they had no idea they were going there.
Yeah. So we were able to set up a second time building without any interference, and immediately volleyed to the end of all things to a moment just seconds before the Oodpocalypse. And then we needed to find a path that would lead to as shortly after the Oodpocalypse in the same place as possible. And we couldn't get quite exact, so we wound up like a minute and a half after the Oodpocalypse.
And I spared no expense on cinematic content.
Cinematics were fantastic.
They were in a small gap between two large sections of the city, or two large cities, and around them, huge floating cities were crashing to the ground in kind of slow motion because their engines are only half given out. Huge plumes of dust as massive structures. Luckily, nothing was above them, and so all around them, the whole skybox was full of crashing, destroyed cities.
Though, a crashing city above us would have added a lot of time pressure.
Yeah, but that would have also felt like a jerk thing to do, because you guys set this all up to be optimal, and I'm like, and it turns out there's a city falling on you because I said so.
As long as we had a minute before touchdown, I think we would be fine. But still, it was great, just background cinematics.
And where is the end of all?
It was sitting there in the field, and it was really messed up.
Fountaining necrotic energy like blood. It was flickering in terrible shape.
Yeah. It only had 500 hit points left.
What does it look like?
A huge black mass of shifting shadows and
Nothingness.
nothingness. Yeah. Do you remember the nothing from the Neverending Story?
Not really.
Oh.
Big cloud.
You uncultured swine.
It's been a long time.
It's basically just pure darkness.
It's the best trip.
So yeah, we all line up. Outside, it has this nasty aura that does massive damage, but
Yeah, 50 necrotic damage to anyone within 10 squares of it. That sucks.
and we all prepped up. You know, we cast all our encounter long dailies and stuff like that before we went into the fight, and we laid into it. We got a surprise round because it just went through the apocalypse and we're ambushing it from outside of time.
Right.
So I think that's fair.
You literally didn't exist
Okay.
before, and now you're there.
Yeah. So even though it has true sight, we actually managed to get the drop on it. And also we won initiative. And also Cricket had done a thing that gave everyone an extra standard action, and we all spent our action points. Normally, the End of All Things has a special ability where when you spend an action point, it gets to make a standard action as well, unless it's dazed, and that's like the first thing we did to it. I also started out by hitting it with Satire of Prowess, which means it has to roll twice on a d20 and take the lower result, and we roll twice on a d20 and take the higher result when attacking it. Oh yeah, in 4th edition. Ben Gerard hit it with something that reduces defenses by 6 for a round.
Thorns.
Yeah, and then we just laid into it. It didn't stand a chance.
I almost feel bad.
I actually felt bad for Hank because in the sequence of events, he didn't get to go until it was completely toast, and he had this awesome combo he'd planned out.
It was really a triumph of planning. They set up like this ultimate situation to destroy it, and then they destroyed it.
Yep. See, make a plan. It all
Hank
works
went
out.
screaming up to do his attack, and it flickered and burst and disappeared from existence. Oh, because...
No, because I did that. I still had to do my cinematic thing. Cricket has the Timeless Trek and Mithrende, which is basically sending it back where it came from.
Because normally when it's reduced to 0 hit points, it just consumes some nearby soul and returns to full strength.
So I did my own cinematic, where I did this cool thing where I was all black and wispy smoke, and I declared some cool thing about, you know, go back where you came from. On the End of All Things was gone. And when
And then Hank came running up, and then disappeared right in front of him, and he's like, started smashing the ground. Boom!
big
And
crater.
because people were taking a long time on their turns, he had actually pre-rolled all of his attacks for some reason. I knew he was going to get like this massive critical followed by 2 free hits, and he was like, I think he'd already figured out he was going to do like 200 damage,
Yeah.
but it was all
Just hitting an empty field. Yeah.
Sort of pure human experience.
So, can't take it over.
Nope, the time mages are still out there. I mean, they summoned it in the first place, so it's not like this was a load-bearing boss.
The world didn't start
Wait,
falling apart.
No.
I mean, just summon the things?
Yep. Nope. I know everyone keeps making that assumption, but no. The time mages pre-existed the End of All Things. They were created by gnomes being vain, or something like that. So we have to go back in time and prevent the gnomes from ever having existed. No, I don't even.
Starting with serendipity.
Oh yes. An important. This was one of the most significant episodes for Cricket because of a major transaction that occurred.
Oh yeah, Henley.
Henley. He actually briefly owned a share of Cricket before he got eaten by maggots. So now that we saved him, Henley was going to own a share of Cricket. And it's very confusing because the laws were not designed for this kind of thing at all. But fortunately, Cricket is an expert. And so she concluded that she wouldn't actually have a share owned by Henley until the change in the timeline caught up with her, which would be about an hour after we rescued Henley. So in that time, Cricket was not actually owned by Henley. And so Serendipity jumped in and said, "Hey, Henley, I'll make you a deal. I'll buy everything that you've recovered in the course of your adventure here. Princely sum of, what was it she offered, 200 gold or something? Or 100 gold.
Hiring 100 gold piece of venture.
Yeah, and Henley was like, I'm not an idiot. I know how much a domestic is worth. I want 3,000 gold, no less.
Yeah.
Or 10,000. I think it was 10,000 was the
And
initial
the
one.
domestic, first of all, domestic is actually worth 3,600.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'll give her to you for, I'll give her give you my share for 10,000.
And so,
His share is only 600.
and so we got an interesting situation where Serendipity delegated negotiations to Cricket because she has the highest diplomacy and bluff scores.
Right.
And so Cricket was trying to barter Henley down for a share of herself. And normally this would not be legitimate. You're not allowed to have a domestic, it's a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
But that change in ownership hadn't caught up to her timeline yet. So yeah, and at that point Hank stepped in and he tried to do some negotiation of his own. He put a sword to Henley's throat and said, "Give me Cricket's share or I'll kill you." And I had to tell him, I'm afraid that would be a contract negotiated under duress and therefore not valid. We are civilized in the Empire of Endless Flowers, and we don't allow that sort of thing. So yeah, because Cricket has unbelievable bluff and diplomacy skills, she bartered him down to, I think it was like 300 or something, and he thought he got an amazing deal.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 300 for it.
And so then afterwards, I worked through the logic of this weird time twisty nonsense and worked out that Serendipity now owns a 75% share of Cricket. So she's got a majority share.
She's the boss of Cricket.
She's the boss.
And no one seems to knows that. Well, I think Robin knows it. She tried to have Gerard buy a share of Cricket to prevent this, but it didn't really work out.
Why did Henry own a share, but
they died before Cricket got out of her sack. They weren't involved in salvaging her. So, yeah. And I remember at the time that was sort of decided on, or I decided on that at the time. You know, they didn't, but Henley did. Yeah. little quirks of history that have such a long impact. I gave the peasant woman, I gave Gwyn back her book.
It didn't help though. She was sobbing, and then they gave her back her book, and she was really embarrassed. It just made it worse.
She had this smutty romance novel called The Ponin and the Mire Maid.
Oh, right.
And yeah, it was a big deal back then. Yeah, it was a big deal back at the. I didn't do that. I'm not the DM.
It's a lot more worn and dog-eared than when she remembered it though.
And
apparently everyone in the party has read it at least once.
In time traveling is boring.
Yeah. We don't have a library with us.
You have a basement, you can go to the library.
Hey, we could, but we filled it with like dragon guts. And orphans. Big pile of dragon innards and orphans. Fortunately unrelated to each other. So yeah, our next step then is we're going to try and hunt time mages. We're gonna finally be as proactive as we can about tracking them down and destroying them before they go and mess with time anymore, because we've got it just the way we like it.
I did threaten the party that so I was wrong about my renewal. My Wizards of the Coast 4th edition tools renewal is actually tomorrow. So I told them, if I TPK the party, I save myself $70. So it might be time for you guys to start making offerings for your survival.
But we survived.
I guess I could have been like, yeah, and you beat the end of all things. Congratulations, campaign over. Immediately click cancel on my subscription.
I wasn't able to cancel my subscription. I tried to, couldn't find the subscription to cancel it.
Is it renewed?
I have no idea. I haven't looked.
You can just cancel it for your credit card.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean they have sunset those tools, so they're. It's just bizarre. Like,
I mean, I guess you should email their tech support or something first and say, hey, I can't figure out how to unsubscribe.
Yeah, I mean, all my characters are gone. They were able to transfer them over, so.
Rate the business.
Yeah, the thing that irritates me particularly about that is like they sunset all those tools, but they didn't reduce the subscription cost.
Yeah.
It's still $70, but because we're running this campaign, all the characters are on there. I have to keep up my subscription. It's definitely not like $70 is ridiculous.
I don't know.
For it? No, but
Until you start looking at D&D Beyond.
Yeah.
next. But I'm sure this campaign will be over in less than 12 months. So
we'll get a bit sidetracked.
there's gonna be no sidetrack. We're gonna be like, why don't we try that? No.
Just whenever they do anything other than hunt the time.
We could travel.
Time mages attack.
I could do it microtransactions. I'd be like, to pay for it, right? Like, here's a railroad. If you step off the railroad, that's fine. $5, please.
They're not side quests, they're DLC.
Yeah.
I could throw some rice in this.
Yeah, that's what I
sop up
did.
some sauce.
That's what I did with mine.
Anyway, I think we can conclude this.
Finally, I've convinced Serendipity to bring me back to the Oodlands, and it's like 5 minutes after they all were destroyed.
Well, it's not the wound I was trying to close, but that was one of the worst things I've ever seen, and we fixed it. It's good that an oblin was here.
Alright, so we've saved these people that we didn't save before. We saved them. Gwen seems nice. Zenith seems cool. Henley... Wait, why did we save Henley?
I survived because I can fix everything. Even Henley.
So, does this mean I have a line share in cricket? I think it does.